First thing we gotta say is make sure y'all vote for our brother.
Man, it's over. It's over. Yeah,
Oh,
they
it's
did. Yeah,
over.
definitely. I found
So
out who win on February 26th. They closed the polls on the 13th.
okay, okay. And it's
Yeah.
airing, you said February 26th.
February 26th, we find out. You know, they got the B list, C list, actually shit, the D list, C list celebrities, you know what I'm saying? We get our banquet on 26th. The A list movie stars and all them, they gonna get theirs on TV on the 28th. You know what I'm saying? So before they shoot the TV, before they do that on television, we already know if whether me, Elizabeth Booker, Josh Doss, or Legally Hype, I'm sure Legally Hype, or Elizabeth Booker, or if Lene won.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Here's how I feel about awards now. Like having been nominated, having lost, having won some stuff is, bro, honestly, everybody that be nominated be dope. You know, everybody and it's to me, it's unfortunate everybody can't get the award. That's just how we do
Yeah.
things here. But all of y'all, bro, when you think about the climate we in and the information that y'all provide, it's important, man. Like, I think y'all should all be getting something individually. But for the sake of this, we rooting for our brother Conscious Lee, man. You gotta walk away with that win.
Hopefully, you know, shout out to everybody that's in the competition, man. Definitely, it's honored to be nominated
Yeah.
and to be in a crowd or a company with people I'm in. So, you know, I ain't it's all good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So for everybody that's tuning in and checking in, man, we really co-hosting this together, but you know what I'm saying, here with my brother Conscious Lee. First thing I gotta say, if you are not subscribed to either one of us, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Definitely hit the subscribe button, man.
And if you are able to, no pressure, no pressure, but you know what I'm saying, you could you wanna pay, you know what I mean? Like you
You
wanna,
know
you
what I mean?
know what I'm saying?
Definitely encourage y'all to be paid subscribers, man. This is what I'll say. Right now, you have two educators on the screen, two black male educators. We are in the minority when it comes to public education, especially when it comes to black men. So you becoming a paid subscriber could definitely help the independent endeavors that we have, especially when it comes to creating these videos and editing and post production and pre production and all that. So you know, definitely want to encourage y'all to become paid subscribers. But if you can't become paid subscribers, still subscribe to those newsletters and, you know, be able to help out with a petition or, you know, with the amplifying a GoFundMe or being able to do anything, you know, outside of that. You know, it's all about the work.
No, for real. I don't think people truly understand like whether you can upgrade it or not, like being a subscriber, sharing this with people. You know, we on a place in the platform right now where we don't have to be as dependent upon the algorithm. And this kind of brings me to like what I wanted to talk to you about too, because bro, like the reason why we even decided to do this conversation here, not on another platform, is for one, I don't have access to my IG. TikTok is at your neck. Like, and if we went live there, they probably will find a way to
Definitely, for
'cause
sure,
you
for
got
sure.
like an account warning or something like that, right?
For sure, for sure. Right now, I have an account warning. I have an account warning. The two videos I got a warning on. The first one was me talking about Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump a few months ago when that happened, and then the most recent one came from me talking about how the Epstein files really detail how Jeffrey Epstein had a hand in the online right proliferation from 4chan to Reddit to all the other websites they mentioned in there, and they gave me a strike, bro, for integrity and authenticity.
That's integrity and authenticity. But talk about something that really happened.
And to me, talking about it in relationship specifically to the Epstein files, to me was like that's preposterous. That's crazy.
And okay. So let me backtrack a little bit because I want to give people context too, bro. Because here's what blows my mind. It's 2026, bro. Like in March, I would have been on TikTok for 5 years, right? Um, we at the point now where you rounding up to the 2030s, which is like it's dating me, bro. It's dating me, man. We getting old up in here. So we OGs, especially you, like in a short form space, like you was one of the most prominent names I came across when I started creating on there.
Appreciate it,
And I
appreciate it.
you've been on there what since like 2019, right?
Been on this since 2019. I didn't seen a whole bunch of different eras of TikTok. I've seen a whole bunch of different community guideline updates. I've seen a whole bunch on TikTok. Never, ever, ever, ever since 2019 have my page been under so much scrutiny, specifically when it comes to the community guidelines and TikTok itself, except for since Trump been in office his last time. And to
Can,
me, that means something.
can you tell me this? Because I understand, like for both of us, man, we come from an educated background. So I think it's always important for people to know too that when we exist in this space, man, we chose to do like this work and use these devices, not because we are content creators, but we're educators. We want to teach, we want to advocate. We're activists, and we use this as a medium. So let's backtrack a little bit, man. Like, how did you get involved in this work? Coming from small town in Texas, what
Yeah.
was your pathway to this, and then why did you decide to pick up that phone?
Man, my pathway to it was being a first generation college student and walking on to the college policy debate team at the University of Oklahoma. Me deciding to walk on to the University of Oklahoma debate team was probably the thing that single handedly changed my life. It gave me the ability to say what I mean what I say, speak truth to power. It exposed me to a whole bunch of different literature bases and a whole bunch of different identities and a whole bunch of different policies. You know what I'm saying? Because debate really gave me the tools to be able to articulate myself. It made it where it became much easier and it became much more of a thrill and desire for me to speak what was on my mind because I was better at articulating myself. In 2014, I lost the semifinals debate round to Georgetown in the semifinals of the national championship debate tournament. And to this day, I felt like we should have won. And that I'm gonna say it lit a fire up under my butt in a way that inspired me to prove to myself that I should have won that round, but also be able to show all the information I got access to, not only as a college student, but also as a debater. Me knowing that my homeboys had to go through an SAT, an ACT, an admissions process to get access to what I had access to and understood they might not be able to do that was a part of me talking about education as elevation and a part of the method to the madness of me hopping on the internet. Before I was consciously and having a following, I was already a public speaker, and I already felt like I should be getting booked to do more public speaking, and I wasn't because people didn't know who I was or I wasn't able to showcase my skills. So the two reasons why I started taking internet more serious is being able to showcase, you feel me, the ability to go and do speaking engagements, workshop facilitations, keynotes, panels, whatever you want to talk about, and being able to get this information that I feel like was gatekept behind SATs, ACTs, all that, as well as being able to get into the literatures, the theory, post-structural modernity, Marxism, Afro-pessimism, Leninism, feminism, all of those, getting into that. That's what led me to being able to get on this phone.
Bro, okay. So now let's backtrack though. Let's backtrack because we know for our experience, man, choosing this path is rare. To go into education, to go into debate, to do what you do on this level is rare. Unfortunately, it's not rare for the potential that we have, but we know how we are taught and miseducated. So let's backtrack before the University of Oklahoma. Who told you that you should take that route into education? Who taught you to value education?
I think that the community I was around always taught me specifically, me, George, consciously specifically, that education would be the vehicle that I would use to be able to get myself out of the situation, as well as how I'll be able to be the meal ticket for people around me. I think that I benefited from being an anomaly in many instances where people around me always believed that I can be I could do amazing things, and they had very high expectations for me. I think that it wasn't until, if I'm being real with you, I wasn't thinking about being an educator until I was probably like a junior in college. When I was in high school, I went back and forth between, being a professional, a politician or being a businessman to want to be a creative. I want to be a rapper. I want to be a documentarian. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I got into college and, the economy was bad. I graduated high school in 2009. So I'm getting ready to graduate from college, you like you, we both the economy was bad. So they said you either gonna go struggle in the economy and figure out how to get a job, or B, get another degree. I'd already decided I wanted to be an educator, but then when I got my degree in my master's degree in education, that's when I was like, okay, nah, this because at first I wanted to be administrator. It's like, nah, the administration is whack. I'm in this classroom. What I say is that it was the Boys and Girls Club mixed in with the multiple black church homes, mixed in with, I'ma say, like, the first 2 or 3 black educators I had really believed in me, really poured in me in ways and really seen me in ways that I didn't see myself, that was very empowering, inspiring. And the last thing I'll say is that when I was a college policy debater, I had the opportunity to go teach high school students how to do policy debate. Like when you a good athlete in football or basketball, you might get invited to go to, a high school basketball camp, a high school football camp, to teach the high school kids technique. debate is the same way. So once I started to become a top 3 debater in the country 2 years in a row, I started being invited more to go to classrooms across the country in the summertime. And bro, being real, that's when I really accepted, understood, and identified with my love for like being in the classroom, and it's accepted that I'm a life learner. I'm a life
Mm.
learner, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? If I ain't learning, then life ain't worth living. And that's why I accepted it. It was probably like 2012, 2013. You feel me? I'm in there. I'm at the University of Texas. I'm at Augsburg College in Minnesota. I'm at Morgan State in Baltimore. I'm going around, bro. I'm going all around the country, and I'm just doing debate stuff, and it made it where I'm like, oh, I like this.
You traveling around the country doing something that requires intellectual prowess and devotion. And we grow up thinking that's only possible if you become an athlete or entertainer. And that's what I really want folks to understand. Like, what you are engaging in is what a lot of our kids in our community are gifted in, man. Like this ability to articulate, this ability. I mean, we're verbal folks, man.
So,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is the reason why a lot of us thought we was gonna be rappers at one point. Man, I don't know not one black male millennial that, that didn't think they was gonna get on rapping at one point, man.
definitely, I'm gonna be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? I want to say, man, listen, I want to be the country Southern Texas version of whatever to this label or that label or that label. Of course, I never really took it serious.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, I never really just went to the studio and laid anything down.
Well, we all got
But
a
definitely
song
would.
somewhere though. We got a song somewhere hitting on YouTube. Or
I definitely got a song on YouTube, and it was me playing in like 2020 something with some, you know what I mean. But it was, you know what I mean. Ain't nothing. Actually, though, I got a song coming out though for Substack. You know what I'm saying, for my Substack stuff. So y'all be on the lookout for that. You know, but I'm
yeah.
not a rapper though. I'm an educator.
So tell me this then. You're engaging in debate. Like did you go into college knowing you was gonna join a debate team, or was it just like somebody told you like you really good at arguing your point? You need to do something
To
with
be
that.
real with you, bro, I had the opportunity to get a debate scholarship when I first went there to OU, but I had an anti-black speech and debate teacher in high school that discouraged me and the rest of the black students from being policy debaters because she felt like we didn't have the capacity to do the research and to be able to cut the cards and be able to do the shit. So
Mm.
I had a real, I'm gonna say a real imposter syndrome and really a resentment towards debate. Like I ain't interested in it. I say all to say I'm there, and within a year and a half, like I guess my freshman year, I participated in this pageant, the first scholarship Mr. Black OU pageant, and my skill, my talent was spitting poetry. I did this Saul Williams poem. I think it was the Alchemist Rock. And the way I was spitting it, you feel me? I was spitting it like it was mine almost, but I was giving credit to Saul Williams. But people in the audience, if people in the audience that had experience with doing debate, with doing cross examination policy debate, and you know what I'm saying, they went. I ended up going over to their house. We kicked it, and they were like, "Man, have you thought about like talking about social issues and debating about it?" I was so raw, bro. I didn't even know it was called social issues, like talking about racism or class.
Mm.
I didn't know it was. I knew racism, but like classism and all the other isms is like I don't know that. But I like talking about class. I like talking about social issues, and that's how I end up, walking on to the OU debate team, and you know what I'm saying the rest is history. But I'm actually curious though for you though.
Mm.
Are you raised by educators, or how did you get an education?
Man, so I didn't plan it. My mom though was an educator for like almost 40 years, bro, on the south side of Chicago. And
40? Hold on, 40?
almost 40 years, bro. Like I wanna say she left like a year before she was really supposed to, because she was just really tired of it. She
Yeah.
spent like half of that time in administration too. So my mom actually wanted me to do more of what you were doing. Like she wanted me to be a lawyer. That's what I always kind of remember being taught. And my dad worked at Sears for 30 years. So I had like this duality of seeing, the blue collar type work, and you know what I'm saying? My mom was doing what she did, but I never wanted to be a teacher. That wasn't my thing. I just knew the expectation was to do good at school. And my family, like bro, my grandmother, 90 years old, doing a thing now. She went back to school later in life, right? So she
Mhm.
ended up getting her master's in social work. One of my aunts, bro, is an optometrist, a black female optometrist. So I had all these different examples, but for me, it was like, well, I'm gonna just do good in school because they said I'm going to college. I'm about basketball, really. Like it was basketball, it was rap. And it was, but at the back of my mind, I knew the expectation was to still achieve high. I go to college, I'm majoring in psychology, man, not because I cared about it,
Yeah.
You seem interesting. It's like, I wanna know how people think and stuff like that. But here's what's crazy. I think the reason why it didn't work out for me in psychology is because I wasn't taught from our perspective. Now, if I knew about Black psychologists, Afrocentric psychologists, Amos Wilson and stuff like that, I would have
Uh-huh.
been more intrigued. I'm learning about all the white folks and their paradigms, and it ain't connecting with me. And I never clicked with standardized tests, and be real with you. I ain't do great on the ACT and all that stuff. And when I was in a psychology class, every grade was based on a test, bro. And I was
Mhm.
about to flunk out this month. So I'm on academic probation at the end of the first semester. And I got one semester to get that grade up above a 2.0 cumulatively. I took a Black history course, man. And bro, that was legit. So I graduated from high school in 2005. I took that Black history course this semester 20 years ago. My life ain't been the same since,
Yeah.
bro. Like ever,
Yeah.
ever since then,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
even though I teach, I'm a student above all. Bro, if I could, I would walk on my campus again and just go sit in classes because I know there's so much I don't know. And the professor, Dr. Clarence Lane, bro, the way he taught, it inspired me. I had some Black teachers growing up, but I didn't have a history teacher that was Black and talk about our stuff. So, bro, I'm going to class every day. Like, with every class, I'm sitting in the front. I'm taking copious notes now. I'm like, I'm in it. And then when we get our books and stuff, I'm buying extra books from the bookstore that were even related to my class. Following semester, got my grades up. I take I think it was African American Studies 101. And I had a professor, Dr. Abdul Al Kalamat, changed my life, bro. That's when it was confirmed for me. I got
Yeah.
to I got to teach because
Yeah.
something he did in here, the paradigm shift, like it helped me understand. Now going back to the South Side, when I would go back on my breaks, I'm like, okay, now I know why the neighborhood is like this. Now I know it's a setup. Now I
And
know
that's
the
what happened. That's what happened to me. Happened to me. It's happened to me actually. It's happening. Like the more I start learning in college, in classroom, and learning in debate, the more I go back to the hood. I'm in Bryan and being like, "Hey man, y'all know why we ain't got any of our stoplights that hang from poles like on the other side of town?" Is just really learning more about urban infrastructure, learning more about the curriculum, having more of an understanding about white supremacy. When I started doing that, it started making it where I'm going to the block. I'm talking about I'm on the block. They slanging on the block. I'm out here, we hanging, we smoking, we hanging out, but we talking about politics and philosophy and theory. And I'm just sharing them shit I learned in college, or what I learned in the debate room, or what I learned in classroom. I mean, really thinking about it, I had Dr. Lupe Davidson. You know what I'm saying? She was my African American studies teacher. I took a class a few times actually. I took a few of her classes. That's how much I fell in love with Lupe. And really, she was one of the first people that made me think about being like a public intellectual. Made me think about as myself as being intellectual. Even though I was already in debate, she made me think about like, George, you could really think about this. Have you ever thought
Mhm.
about doing workshop facilitations? Have you ever thought about being a professor? And I was like, mind blown. I'm like, nah, heck no. Nah. You know what I mean? No, I ain't thought about none of that.
Like, ain't nobody ever spoke that into my life. Like, and that's what it does for us. Being able to even go away to school for a little bit, digest these concepts, bro, away from your hometown, gives you a certain level of privilege because you ain't got to worry about the same dynamics in the community. So then when you go back, you don't look at it the same. You grow, bro. I had this thought the other day. It was like, without context of our experience, bro, we become prisoners of the moment. So when we come across things like, the violence and the so-called black on black crime and the
And that
conditions
was
of
a bar. That was 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 a bar.
I thought I said it a few times, man. I thought about it. Without context, we're prisoners of the moment. So that's it precisely why the right education is liberation, right? So when you go back to the neighborhoods and you see these conditions, you see the food deserts and you see these different traps, you see the liquor stores everywhere, and you see the vacant lots, and now you have the context of, oh, that's why it's like that. Otherwise, without that context, prison of the moment, you say it's because of us. It's because we ain't pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps more. So that's why, like, I felt like I had to pay all this money to get this. And here's how cold this professor was, man. I like to elevate his name as much as I can. He an OG
Yeah.
now. Dr. Abdul Al Kalamat. He changed his name. It was Gerald McWhorter. When I went back home that following semester, I got my grades together and everything, and I know I want to teach. I told my mom about him. Come to find out, this brother taught her when she was at the University of Illinois in Chicago about 20, 30 years priorly. She only knew that, though, because I told her what because he changed his name. Then, bro, I ain't know this till I graduated. This brother descends from a man named Free Frank McWhorter. Free Frank McWhorter is somebody who purchased his freedom. purchased his wife's freedom, his whole family freedom, adjusted for inflation, spent over $500,000 to get his family free, left from Kentucky, came up here to found a town, the first incorporated black founded town called New Philadelphia in Illinois. Bro, thi
Yeah,
this dude, my
yeah,
professor descends from that. So when I'm
yeah,
thinking in hindsight, I'm saying, so this happened in the 1820s, 30s, all that, right? So about 200 years later, the lineage, the legacy of the sacrifices Free Frank made a Gerald McWhorter, Abdul Al-Kamat possible, which
yeah.
helped free my mom mentally and helped free me. So like the work we doing, bro, if we are stagnant in any way, we losing out on 200 plus years of legacy of what we could potentially do for folks mentally, eh, intellectually, all of this stuff, bro.
Sure.
It was from that point. Those two classes, I'm like, yeah, I'm teaching because if I got to pay $20,000, I need to go back to the hood, back to
Yeah.
the community. I'm giving it out for free, and that's kind of where social media comes in because I don't think we should have to. Now, there's levels that we got to be supported because we got to be able to do this, right? But
Uh,
this information, there should be no paywall to you receiving what you need to know to get out of your condition or to improve it.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
And I think that like that model of financially having to pay a way to get access to the information, that's what we kind of going against. I think that's the
yeah,
importance of us as black educators within the virtual reality space. But
yeah,
also I think it's the importance of what we're talking about. I feel like I keep thinking about it like this, man. We celebrating 100 years right now, Black history. And in the 100th year, we have unique assaults on erasing black history and even thinking about the powerful story you just gave. How
mhm,
you're able to do the genealogy, you know what I'm saying, Mick Water and think about where he come from and think about how he got to where he at. That's what they want to erase.
yeah,
The empowering feeling you get, that smile you have when talking about his story, that feeling you have of belonging, you know what I'm saying, when you talk about him, they don't want
yeah,
you to feel that. And
right,
I think people watching this or listening to this, whether you listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whether you listen to it right now, the most important thing I want you to think about this is when Mr. Crim, Ernest talking, listen to his voice and all of the enjoyment you hear in his voice, the power you hear in his voice, specifically when he's talking about that professor and thinking about how black educators and black education and black history is actively being erased politically, socially, economically. I cannot stress that point enough. You know what I mean? It's happening before our eyes.
Can you consider the fact that we're talking about 100 years of celebrating this? The reason Dr. Carter G. Woodson had to create this is because it was actively being erased, especially after enslavement ends, bro. It's like they don't want us to remember what happened. The Daughters of Confederacy was like, oh, slavery wasn't that bad. It's a fight for memory. We are actively fighting against like collective amnesia and dementia. If we can't remember that collectively, we can't connect the dots to what's happening today, which means our advocacy is all over the place. Like, bro, at the same time, they're waging wars, committing genocide, and all this types of stuff, and starving people here. They also saying we don't want you to remember that.
No,
They taking down the pictures. Like, and it's wild because in Philadelphia, where they taking down these monuments and stuff like that, that's the same city, the only major city where you have to take Black history in high school to graduate. It's performative, bro, because you ain't erasing these kids' memory. You trying to show them that this is what we think of you.
yeah. And so it's virtue signaling to everybody outside of Philadelphia that don't know the uniqueness of the curriculum in Philadelphia to show, hey, I'm down with the get down. Because what I figured out is the same way we're able to, when Barack Obama was waving to everybody else and shaking their hands, we knew what that meant.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other, you know what I'm saying, cultural virtue signaling that's happening. That's the same thing. I'm talking about the same thing when we have talking about drinking milk or the certain songs they playing on on Instagram or certain songs they use in the background for Twitter. The way there's a bunch of virtue signaling happening right now, and I think they're using Black history or the pathologization of Black history in order to send the message out to the Klan or send the people out there that, you know what I'm saying, that are Confederate flag toters, anti-Black apologists, white supremacist sympathizers, it's sending it to them. And I think that's where we at right now is like, hey, y'all said y'all was throwing full-blown temper tantrums about about the Confederate statues. You were beating your chest about how you cannot change history about even no matter how bad it is. Those same individuals that had all the energy about erasing history and preserving history is now trying to erase history and going against the preservation of Black history. And it's just like, hey,
bro.
and even this, when they want to show how good America is, they're gonna brag about the exporting of Black culture.
Mm, mm. Come on, man. You you know what's crazy? What you just did for me right now, because when I told you we in 2026, I'm legit reflecting like, yo, 20 years since I took that course. 20 years. I remember protesting, right? Like on campus against blackface parties and stuff. You had me think about how long ago it felt when they were protesting against Confederate statues coming down, bro. That was the last decade. Like this movement has been going on. Even if we just say, like, let's use leave it like what happened with Trayvon Martin. What was that, 2012? We
Yeah.
talking 14, 15 years, right? A lot of folks think this Black Lives Matter stuff started happening in 2020. I mean, for me, it was the awareness again being in school, but it was also Oscar Grant, I think in 2009, bro.
See,
We
I
talking
was too young, but I feel like, so, because you know what I'm saying, I graduated in '09. I graduated in '09 in high school. So for me, the first like injustice that really got my attention, that really made me start learning more, was Troy Davis. The execution of Troy
ooh,
Davis in
oh,
2011.
yeah.
That is the story that changed my entire reality to the world. Because I feel like growing up in Bryan, Texas, white supremacy is normalized in a way where you don't think about it like that. It's
Mm,
just like, hey, you black, they white, you gotta this, it is what it is. It wasn't until 2011 when the execution of Troy Davis happened and it was understood that he was basically innocent. That's when I started leaning more into the political implications of Black life. I think I was always privy to like the social issues in terms of like, hey, but Troy Davis made me start learning more about politics, the policymaking system,
mm,
laws, legislation, jurisdictions, prosecution. That's when I started being more into it. And I say that as somebody like, man, my mom and my daddy, I grew up with them being in jail. You know what I'm saying? My daddy sold a bunch of drugs. My mama was addicted to a bunch of them. So
mm,
my orientation towards, you feel me, thinking about blackness is through that very decrepit, stereotypical, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like through that, you know what I mean? So when I start learning about Troy Davis, I'm now thinking about the autonomy that I could have had or my family could have had when we start thinking about the law. Because usually, and I feel like in Texas, the law isn't something that we engage in as black people. I would argue the law is something that happened to us.
mm,
I ain't never said it that way, but I think that's how I'll be willing to put my portable debate skills on the wall and say, hey, in Texas, and maybe throughout other southern states, but in Texas I can speak for,
mm,
we don't engage the law. The law was always working on us. And if you think about it that way, Troy Davis' situation and me understanding what happened to him really made it where now the law did happen to him.
mm,
But he tried to engage the law in a particular way too. And it seemed like, yeah. And then once I started learning about Afro pessimism and whiteness, it
mm,
was over with. It was over. It was over, over, over.
mm. Let's backtrack a little bit because like Troy Davis had that same impact for me, man. It was a culmination of a lot of different things. It was Oscar Grant. It was man, the Jenna Six, I think. Man, it's like Troy Davis, bro.
Hey,
Like
Genesis 6 was before that though, huh? You right though. Genesis 6 probably was, but I feel like I was Genesis 6 I was so young. I didn't get it though.
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that was
'06.
oh,
Yeah.
six. Okay. So and that's the time too. Like, so for me, I was in college when Facebook first kind of became a thing. It was the second year. You had to have a college, email. So some of these stories I would see kind of either on my pages or on the hip hop blog too. Here's what I want to, man, look, the important role, bro, that hip hop plays in these movements. And it makes me think about the silence we see from mainstream artists now. I found out, I'm about to connect this right here. I found out about this publication named Democracy Now!, right? You might be familiar with Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman and them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Out them because I was following Lupe Fiasco on Twitter back when Twitter was at its peak, right? It was like it wasn't X, bro. It was like at its peak, a lot of education and stuff going on. And I checked them out because of him. And one of the stories they talked about was Troy Davis, right? So this connection right here. Matter of fact, Lupe even put me on Howard Zinn. So you think about and I think about the books, and Nas even put me on in the different verses and stuff. Bro, I recall, so for those who don't know, Troy Davis was executed, I believe, in Georgia.
In
um,
Georgia for sure. In Georgia in 2011.
there was no physical evidence linking him to the murder of an officer. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. So you talk about laws happening to us. He did what he was supposed to do to go to counter it, to appeal it, but it did not matter. Bro, I talk about this in my book too, and it's one of those cases where people don't really remember. I distinctively recall, bro, that was the first time in my life I can recall crying over somebody I did not know. I
That's
felt
the first
like,
time I was mad. That's the first time I was pissed off by somebody I did not know.
yeah,
That's the first time I remember being in the union, bro, in Norman, Oklahoma, at the University of Oklahoma in the student union, and really sitting there. I remember Joy was the girl that told me about it, and I remember being like, wait, what? And I remember being like FOMO, like fear of missing out, and being like, hold on, I'm on the outside, like y'all talking about this, like y'all so knowledgeable. I don't know who this person is. I don't know what y'all talking about. I don't know what the issue is. Like that right there changed my life. And then really Trayvon Martin was the icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? Icing on, and it really I didn't learn about Oscar Grant until like 2014 when I seen Fruitville Station.
yeah, bro.
And hey, that movie was made so crazy that to this day, if that movie came out in 2013, I haven't celebrated New Year's Eve
Mm,
since I seen that movie. That's how
mm,
much it messed me up. I'm talking about I don't have the celebratory relationship to New Year's Eve and getting drunk and I don't have a relationship to that. Like I'm staying at the house with my wife and my kids. And before I had wife and kids, after I seen it, I'm staying at the crib. I don't want no part of the New Year's Eve
bro.
at all.
That's secondhand trauma, man. Because we saw like he in the same age range as us too. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we see him in us. Like that could have been any one of us, man. And his was deep. So when you think about all these different things coinciding together as we begin to raise our consciousness and we studying these things, like it's a perfect storm. Because for me, if I'm studying it in a book, this is why they don't want you to know your history, right? That's why they don't want your kids of all races to know what happened to us. Because if you study it and then you hear about something today, you're like, wait a second, because naturally, as you read, you begin to compare to your own existence, right? You
Mm-hmm.
like, wait, this sound book bands, right? They was banning David Walker. Oh, Harry Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom. Oh, this sounds just like, wait, they doing the same thing. So
They
how
doing the same thing.
they're complicit and continuing to take advantage of us because they understand that most of us don't have access to this because it becomes a privilege to truly learn about yourself, bro. Our history is an elective if it's even optional in an educational institution.
What? And people always to me, I feel like being in Texas, there's a lot of racial literacy that's not as affluent in other places. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to like power and domination, calling it out.
Mm,
I'm always able to explain white privilege by using the curriculum and talking about how white history is a part of the core curriculum. There's no way for you to graduate high school and not know about white history, not know about white American history, and be seen as a good student. There is a way for you to graduate with a 4.0 and not know nothing about Black history because it's an elective. You know what I mean? I think this part right here is what I believe is also important to contextualize the erasure of Black history to what is going on right now. And it's been my beef. I think that just the general public. The general public to me is engaging in American exceptionalism
mm,
where you believe the only way you can understand the evils of America is unless you transcribe it on to a German guy or to an Italian guy. Because you don't understand Black history or you don't know Black history or the history of America, you think that we're not like you think that the only way for us to understand the violence that America is doing is to make a metaphor about a foreign entity. You don't know about the future slave era. You don't know about even the era you're getting into. So people ask, is when did America get this way? Can y'all believe that this person is like, can we believe? Can I believe? It's like that you're explaining in awe and surprise with like I don't believe shock factor with something that's been a incorporated part of Black history. It's like, hey, this person got shot in their home. This person, right? To me, it's like understanding even Philando Castile got murdered in Minneapolis, also having a gun like Alice Presty, also being in the car, you know what I'm saying? Just like, what your car was. And it's like, hey, like,
yeah, yeah. That willful ignorance is what perpetuates this, man. I've seen some writers even talk about how like the ignorance of only comparing what we're dealing with to Nazi Germany, like, leaves that void and understanding because you have to remember that we can't stop right there. You got to understand that he was inspired by America. He was inspired by how this government treated us and the indigenous people. The American government, they are the originators of what we see now. It's just that a lot of white folks have been shielded from it and have been able to escape that. And it's wild, bro, because I often think about that in terms of even when we talk about like lynchings and how I would always kind of turn my nose up when like people would say, "Oh yeah, it was 5,000, it was this," and I'm like, "So y'all think they documented all of them? You think that when they was doing this in a small town that they was keeping track of all of them? If they said it was 5,000, 6,000 between this year and this year, a couple questions come to mind is for one, why did they start keeping track then? Why did they stop at this year? And how many of these stories don't we know? That, bro, I posted something recently, asked, and I knew I wasn't gonna get no response, but I just wanted to put this out there. I was like, yo, because I interview a lot of folks in our community, the elders, to kind of learn about their experience. And one time I even asked my mom, I was like, yo, do you know somebody in your circle, somebody white that would be willing to have a sit-down conversation with me that's, of the baby boom generation? I want to really get gain a better understanding of the secrets that they know about, because my mom could tell you stories about being chased by white adults in Chicago going past a de facto segregation line in the 60s and 70s, but you don't have a lot of white folks on the other end that will tell you that they saw that or heard about that from their own family, or participated in it. So even though we know about all the horrors and ills they've done and continue to do, there's a huge void and there's a lot of shame. And that's why you get a lot of white folks, especially those who might follow us, who are very intrigued because
Yeah,
we're teaching them they were kept in the dark about. But y'all families know there's a
definitely,
legacy
definitely.
and it
And
still
hey,
lives within you.
and that's somebody that's born and raised in small town Texas.
Tell me about that too. So was
It
your time?
blows my mind. I'm gonna say this real fast. It
Mm,
blows my mind the general ignorance all of America has when it comes to small town Texas.
mm,
When it comes to small town America, period. I think down south, every small town has the family that you can't go against, and you have the different tales of the small town that reverberates for generations that serves as a metaphorical lynching. So
mhm,
all the black families know in my hometown that you can't mess with that family over there. You can't go against that family over there. And we understand that it's certain things you got to deal with. So if you believe that every documentation that happened for lynching is like, no, you don't understand the politics of small town. You don't understand the hush hush politics of growing up in a small town. You don't understand that, hey, listen, for the for the first time, I would argue my hometown specifically, and I think other small towns like mine, for the first time, are dealing with what it means to have public scrutiny
mm,
that outweighs what you want to do in your own damn city. I don't think in Brian history they've ever given a damn about what they're talking about the city in terms of the national narrative.
mm,
It's a lot of smaller towns. We don't give a damn about what they talking about in New York or what they saying over there about this. Think about this. When Selma, Mississippi happened,
mm,
how many people in Selma do you think really, really, really sat with and cared about how Selma was talked about in Chicago or in New York? It didn't really matter because the jurisdiction the white folks had in Selma was like, yeah, y'all could be outraged all y'all want. You mad about Emmett Till? We don't care. The people that killed Emmett Till in that city, everybody know what happened. Everybody know 'em. Me and you know as scholars and historians that them people gave money, and we all know this is all the politics of small town. So going back to your original point, it's like, hey, why are y'all starting with documenting lynchings now? And are y'all accounting for the unreported? I know when somebody is an ally in terms of sexual violence and women's progression, we make a point and talk about the reported ones because we want to make sure we point out that there are unreported sexual violence instances that happens. So for
mm,
me, thinking about violence, hey, we're
mm,
talking about the documented instances of racial violence. What
mm.
about those undocumented ones?
That makes me think of the power of the pen and the power of Ida B. Wells when she started to boldly talk about what boldly happened to her friends and how everybody hated her, even within her community, because she ain't cared, right? Like without her boldly talking about what she saw from that perspective, we don't see that decline in lynchings. And again, to your point, because we know around they start around 1877, keeping track and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Even with hate crimes, man, I think it's always intriguing. They like, over the past 10 years, hate crimes have doubled. And as someone who dealt with a hate crime, I don't even know if mine was classified as it because the person who did she wasn't found guilty of the hate crime. But even beyond that, they didn't start keeping track of hate crimes, bro, to 1991. So you mean to tell me that? Think about that, y'all. A country founded on hate. We ain't got to go to 1492. Just say 1776, July 4th. The whole entity is a hate crime. It's a criminal, as Dr. Fred Carver said, a criminal enterprise, bro. The settler colonial state. They don't start keeping track to 1991. And the president who signed off to keep track, which is unbelievable to me, is George H.W. Bush.
Just and to me, this the insidious nature of anti-blackness in America And this is a reason why we have to always highlight Black educators, Black education, and Black history, because those nuances, the uniqueness of how you're able to contextualize things, it to me is really what's needed a lot of the times. And even this,
Yeah.
when you start talking about the hate crime you experience, think about all the Black folks throughout the country, not just down south, that believe you don't have the power to condemn a hate crime,
Mm,
or believe you don't have the jurisdiction to say that shouldn't happen to me.
mm,
Because I have been the victim of a hate crime. I didn't
mm,
report it. I thought nothing happened of it. And at that time, I was so young, I felt like, hey, 2 plus 2 is 4. The sky's blue, and Black people get, you know what I'm saying, we get hate crime here, and there. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna cry about the dog barking. This is a truism. This happened in reality. I ain't gonna get mad about you doing it either. That's how I thought about it, because it was like, hey, this is a truism. You feel me? I got gave in the talk. The talk to me, and sometimes in the Black community, allows for us to be pacified a little bit, or allows for us to rationalize with racial violence, because it's taught to us like, I'm telling you this to avoid it, but I'm telling you this to avoid it and telling you how normalized it is against you. And
mm,
even if it's not saying like even if it's not being presented in that way, over time, when you understand that in our cultural competency of understanding racism and white supremacy, this is given to us this way. It's like,
mm.
hey, you know.
Bro said, "I ain't gonna cry about the dog barking." Put that on the shirt, man. Somebody put
That's
some
be real true. In my mind, truisms, bro. That's how I engage truisms, bro. Like I feel like when I learned about the theory of realism and realism versus idealism, in my mind, like material reality is just like, hey, just it is what it is. And for me, when I say it is what it is, it's like, hey, I'm not gonna debate a dog barking. I'm not gonna get at you about the merits of it. Like I expect a dog to bark. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, the dog barking, or man, this dog barking at me. It's like, no, that's what dogs do. So for me, it's like, hey, white supremacists, they white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I'm not going. So in this instance, it's like me thinking about how me rationalizing white supremacy allowed for me to rationalize with a hate crime, and made it where the individual that committed the hate crime would never be brought to justice, because I felt like it could never happen. So in
mm,
some instances, I foreclosed the ability for me to access justice, because I felt like it was unapplicable. I felt like it was not
mm,
attainable. I felt like it was out of my access. And to me, I think this is also the importance of like history and education. Because even right now, you schooling me and thinking about like, nah, I never would have thought about doing it.
mm.
Like
Well,
never would.
let me tell you this too, because even though you did not pursue it, your commitment to what you do now is actually fighting that. So
That's real, bro. Appreciate
whether
that.
no, straight up, because whether it is proactively, engaging with Black youth about these types of things, you are inspiring them, help educate them, because this very likely they could come encounter with that. But if they have this knowledge that you've given them, they respond in a completely different way. And what I mean by respond is it's what you do after. I'm not talking about how whether we
Agreed.
gotta throw hands or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That depends on everybody's different situation.
Yeah,
I get it.
definitely.
But
I get it.
it's afterwards. Because whether you
Yeah.
fight physically or not, it's how you internalize it and externalize it that's going to determine how you really interact with that situation. Because when I tell people I fought it, the perception is that I fought physically. And as someone who grew up fighting physically a lot, that was the
Yeah.
first time in my life I was really pressed with not feeling like I should do what I was taught to do. But the very fact that almost 10 years later, I'm still doing this work to me means I'm fighting it. I mean, when I started a Black student union at the school I taught at the following school year. To me, that's fighting because I found out our kids were dealing with the same thing and they didn't have an advocate. Like the millions of people that you touch and with the work that you do, throughout the course of 7 some years is evidence of you fighting it. Because imagine if that happens and forget the fact that you maybe didn't press charges, but imagine if you turn a blind eye to the reality of it. Because there are those of us in our community, I ain't about to say names, but we know the people who have internalized it and not constructively, destructively, because they begin to hate themselves and they can grow platforms, bro. They build platforms, great large edifices, skyscrapers off of internalized hate. And we
Yeah.
know how that operates in this system. Because if any of us did that, brother, I mean, the several million followers you got would be 20.
Ah, for sure, for sure. I think I always try to, I feel like I need to start reminding people more. And it was like, you do this for money or this, that, and the other. It's like if I was doing this for money, I would have threw my Confederate flag and my red MAGA hat on a long time ago and would have already figured out a way how to use my gift to gab to capitulate the white supremacy. It's the most lucrative thing I could do. You know what I'm saying? And it's be the easiest thing I could do. I wouldn't have to worry about my conscience or morals or ethics because I'll be around a whole bunch of slimy folks that have already divorced themselves from morals and ethics. So
Mhm.
we know it ain't about money because what we know is that the left don't pay. Whether we're talking about leftists, far left, or we're talking about moderate establishment liberals, they don't pay. You see what I'm saying? So you got to have the love for ball, the love for the game to be up in this. But something right here when you was talking made me think of this, two things. The first thing I thought of talking about music, I seen this video before we got on here, bro. It caught my eye. It said, rap, hip hop started off as journalism and it's turned into propaganda.
Mm.
And it was like, it was more succinct because it was like, you know how you see a video on your timeline and somebody will have text on the page before they start talking and you
Mhm.
see it and it catch
Yep,
your
yep.
attention? It caught before he opened his mouth, I seen that. Like, right, rap used to be journalism and now it's propaganda. And
Mhm.
it made me think like, man, like to me, there's a orchestrated attack on how black people are able to speak truth to power and how we're able to document what's happening to us. Once
Mhm.
we got away from liberation and got away from salvation and started moving towards prosperity, not only in the church, but as a culture, it made it where now we losing our griots, we losing our journalists, we
Mhm.
using our, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And it's just like, man, speaking of that, and then the last thing is just like,
Mm.
they really trying to take education away. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
the right to vote, the fact that DEI, critical race theory, and Black history had become synonymous with each other.
Mhm. Can you speak on that too? Because I saw you and Kasem post about this, and I haven't seen this anywhere else. The SAVE Act, in terms of taking away the right to vote. I know a little bit about it based on what I saw y'all talk about, but can you break that down a little bit more?
Man, bro. So we know that one of the piece of legislations that people love to champion for like how America has come far is like one of the Civil Rights Act. I think the Civil Rights Act of '64. We know that after Civil Rights Act of '64, there was a lot of different ways that conservatives were able to circumvent a lot of the ways that black folks got access to voting. So, you know, one of the ways that voter suppression operated for us was like grandfather clause. It was, you know what I'm saying, a poll tax. It was like all these ways were ways to suppress black votes and were ways to discourage black people from voting. Right now, the SAFE Act is nothing but a manifestation of the poll tax that says that in order for you to vote, you have to have a passport, your name, you married, your wife name got to match, you know what I'm saying? Her married name got to match on the birth certificate. If it don't, she got to go back and go change the birth certificate, go get the, you know what I'm saying, passport. So what's happening with the SAFE Act is that you're seeing that the Republican Party are incentivized to figure out a way to reduce the amount of people that votes. What they know is that when we have high voter turnout, it's the worst enemy to Republicans getting office. So what they doing with the SAFE Act is it stands to, I think, make like 21 million Americans ineligible. So married people, veterans, if you've experienced a natural disaster, think about it. Think about it in terms of black community. How many black folks you know where their birth certificate at right now?
Man.
You know what they'll say? My mama got it inside of the mattress.
Mm.
Mama got it in, you see what I'm saying? What they saying is that in order for you to vote, that all that true ID stuff, and you need a real ID in order to be able to travel. But
Yeah.
somehow, bro, they moved the goalpost. And even though they shove down our throats the real IDs, those real IDs are not going to be permissible to make sure you can vote. So when we start talking about the SAVE Act, it's like millions of different groups that are going to be impacted by not having the right, you know what I'm saying, documentation. And this how they gonna bamboozle. This how they bamboozling us though. They saying like this. Well, Ernest, don't the Negroes love to dance and drink their Hennessy? Don't you have to have a ID to be able to drink your Hennessy and be able to get into the clubs? It sounds like to me you guys are trying to. That's a misrepresentation of reality.
Mm.
You do not have to have your passport or birth certificate to go buy any alcohol or go to any club. That's what they adding. They adding extra provisions on it. You see what I'm saying? Just to make it like, hey, I'm not gonna say you can't vote if you black. But I am gonna say if your grandfather couldn't vote, then you can't vote. I'm not gonna say you can't vote because you black. What I am gonna say is that if you can't pass this literacy test, then you see what I'm saying? And to me, it's just like, this the reason why I think history important, because it's like, hey, if you don't know no better, you would think it's the first time America pulled this. If you don't know no better, you don't know that there's a black community that these tactics have been mastered against. You don't know that. So you don't know the scars and suffering that we carrying around because they did it to us first. They figured out a way, man. Listen, how can I get these folks to agree with Alex? You know what I'm saying, with Renee Good and especially being murdered? What were the ways I was able to get the general public to buy into the suffering of a black body, to Atiana Jefferson, to
Mm,
Trayvon Martin, to you know, we can go name for name. We can stay on here for a whole nother hour going name for name.
mm,
And just thinking about, to me, what I would argue is that, hey, you're seeing imperialism turned inwards, which is fascism. And this imperialism was mastered on bodies that the government told us never care about. The Afghanis, the Iraqis that was being blown up for 10 years, they figured out a way how to master the surveillance apparatus. And now they mastering against black folks. Even when, to me, I think about Mike Brown and Ferguson. And when I first started really getting in and thinking about Gaza, thinking about Palestinians, and thinking about, hey, they've already connected the dots. And then getting into Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. Dr. Mark Lamont Hill wrote this piece when I was in college, from Gaza to Ferguson. Well, he did a settler colonial analysis about how the settler colonial states of Israel and the settler colonial state of America engages in the same type of anti-black violence and engage in the same type of colonial violence that always justifies the captivity or gratuity. Like, he really gave me the lexicon and be like, damn, this what's going on. You feel me? And it's
mm,
just like, this the reason why they don't want us to be able to learn, because we're gonna connect these dots.
mm,
Connecting these dots,
mm,
it threatens the apparatus. So now I was thinking about, like, hey, why is nothing happening? Because y'all didn't, when the government told y'all, hey, even though you seen Terrence Crutcher with his hands up and his back turned to Betty Shelby, you didn't see what you think you saw. Let me do an investigation and convince you seen something different. That's what
mm,
happened to us. And all those black folks was like, are you kidding us? So now when they do it to these white women, I want to be clear too. I'm not saying that the death of Renee or Alex doesn't matter. I'm not saying that. I'm also not saying that we shouldn't be outraged. What I am saying is that if we would have been outraged before, it could have prevented this. I'm
mm,
making a prevention analysis and not an aha analysis. I want to be clear on this. I'm not, man, like, I'm not saying I respect life in every form. I'm
mhm,
not saying because they white, it don't matter. What I am saying, though, is that now the outrage is starting to come because they're white, and a lot of y'all are starting to make a bunch of claims that show
mm,
people like me and him
mm.
that you didn't really care about black folks like you said you did. Because you did, you wouldn't have this, oh my God, I can't believe.
Yeah. Man, we're gonna have to make sure that get cut. They're gonna have to snip that part. Um, a couple things. A couple things. When I was a teacher, man, one of the things I began to realize, I see your point about Palestinians in Gaza. Whatever America had did to other people, it always came back, right? And I began to notice this trend too. There was always like whenever we got technology domestically, bro, it was always like 30 years after they had been using it for the military for genocide abroad, right? Because you look up when the internet was invented, right? It was like in the 50s or 60s. When did we get it? We got dial up in like the 90s. It wasn't even advanced, right? And bro, when I began to really critique politics and representation in politics and stuff like that, man, during Obama's second term, and I started to learn about drone strikes and stuff, man. I can't remember the name of the documentary, bro, but I think I came across it on Democracy Now! And I was really into, like, they out here killing innocent people. Some of these folks, American citizens. It was blowing my mind. But then, not too long after that, what happens? You could buy drones at Walmart. And I started noticing these. One of my videographers, bro, whenever we do a gig, he out there with the drone, getting you know what I'm saying, the landscape and everything. And people don't, like, I get it's a lot to keep up with. That's why you follow folks like this that's doing the work. That's why you try your best to financially support if possible. Everything they do abroad, they bring it back. They testing it over there.
Bring it back, bring it back. Hey, hey, being real, that's the reason why the Palestinians was able to get on Twitter and tell black folks what to do in Ferguson, because they had already dealt with those type of tactics. Even this, when Ferguson happened, this is something that also had radicalized me, is that I was a student at the University of Oklahoma when it happened. And I already was showing that I was a leader. I already had to get the gab. I'm not going to say the officer's name, but a Norman Police Department officer invited me to go out for a meal. Cuz took me to the Chipotle. You know what's up with Chipotle? He wanted to figure out how could he use me as a debater and ask me straight up. We want to get more military equipment here in Norman, but we're worried that what happened in Ferguson gonna happen here in Norman. And we know the black people here is worried about it. So I'm coming to you to figure out what should we say to the black people that's worried about bringing militarized police equipment in Norman. And I'm coming out, and I found, you know what? I'm trying to get you to sell out, but I'm finna give you some Chipotle, Negro. Here goes some Chipotle. Enjoy your steak and your guacamole. And can you tell me the arguments? I know you're a great, at that time, I'm ranked in top 16 in the country at that time. I'm a top ranked debater in the country. Fam invited me to figure out how to lobby and make sure the Norman Police Department got military gear. Fam, Norman was ranked one of the top 10 safest places to raise a family the majority of the time I was there.
Mm.
Why do you need militarized equipment? I knew. Ain't none of y'all population, ain't nothing but 2% black. You bring that equipment in here, you gonna figure out a way to deploy that against the 2% black folks here.
Yeah, yeah.
Impacted me though. I brought it up and say that it impacted me a lot. And thinking about it now, maybe I was always set up in a place to make it where people that's in power and authority positions want to come to me and figure out how can I use your influence for me.
Mm,
Sometimes it's beneficial and it makes sense. Other
mm.
times it's like there's no way I'm gonna help you.
Yeah. But that's what they do. I don't think folks understand this is a cold game we in, bro. And we are again reflecting on context and everything. We are the first generation of short form creators, right? And especially using it this way. YouTube been around for like 20 some years or so, 21, 22 years. So even like some people have been in that space for a long time. You like a part of that first wave. I'm grateful that I decided to jump on TikTok when it was kind of at its peak before everything started
Appreciate
going,
you, bro.
you know? And but with that said, like I don't think folks realize the type of things we have to deal with sometimes underneath the table behind the scene. And
Man,
people try to test. Like there I mean, it's some of the stuff that I've had to turn away from, say no to, or even opportunities, quote unquote opportunities lost because of the stance that's taken publicly. Like you said, we people ain't doing this because we out here trying to get rich. Like, you don't go into education because you're trying to get a bag. Like this I want people
I
to
say, hold on, repeat that again. Repeat that again. You do not go in education, but what? How say it again?
you ain't going to
I
education
know,
to
but repeat
get
to
a
the people
bag.
so people know.
You are not going into education because you want to get a bag. This is a labor of love. When you see what our folk, what they, Dr. King got assassinated at 39, bro. He wasn't even 39 internally though. The type of, like the least I could do is share some information. Like I can't even do this work without the sacrifices he made and thousands of others of our people. You know what I'm saying? So like this, and I think I want to kind of bring this in too with the topic that I had on the flyer about truth tellers being silenced. So today we understand that a lot of people are canceling their I would say their cable subscriptions, a lot of people on the streaming apps, most folks, and I know this, I left the class in 2022, kids is on here. That's why I jumped on TikTok because all my kids was on here. So I said, let me see what's good on there. Um, if you take like your following and let's say like everybody that was nominated for the NAACP award, you take some folks, like myself, maybe 5 other people, you have a collective of maybe 10, 15 people. Or we can even go beyond that. There's some folks doing some dope work out here, right? We are what people are tuning into to stay abreast of information like this. Unlike in a previous generation, we had to tune into television, right? You know what I'm saying? If you go to college, you got that community to have these discussions, but people aren't getting this intel from us. I don't see nothing about the save back right on TV, mainstream media, right? So if you begin to target these folks, you don't even have to ban them. That's the most overt thing you can do. But the real flex, honestly, is the shadow ban. TikTok been on that with me for about 2, 3 years, bro. And I know you got about 3 mil. Some of
Man,
the
I'm talking about fam.
come
Man,
on,
listen, man. I made a video today. I got 2.8 million followers on TikTok. 2.8 million. I made a video today. The video was up for 3 hours. It got 800 views in 3 hours. 2.8 million followers and only 800 people seen the video in 3 hours. I'm talking about, and for me, it's like this. As somebody that's been doing this for a long time, there are times that your video is trash.
Mhm.
The video just sucked.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't interesting. The attention getter wasn't good. But listen, even in order for your video to be categorized as being bad, people have to view it.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? It is like what, and that's the
Bro,
reason why y'all gonna see a lot of us more on Substack. Cause it's like, listen, man, I can go live on TikTok, and I got to be on live for a long time to get to 100 people.
with 3 million people.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
don't
I
even
wanna
make
give folks this
sense.
perspective. I don't know the exact number, but, like, in
It's
Chicago, I
like
know
still though, like don't make sense though. It don't make sense. It just
it don't make
it
sense,
doesn't
bro.
make
If
sense.
if we say 3 let's say about 2.8 million people willingly move to a city because they like the city, the information, all the opportunity, and that city is providing people more of what enticed them to come. Ain't no way only 800 would take advantage of that.
Ain't no way.
You know what I'm saying?
Ain't no way. And it's just like that's the reason why I think all the traditional media platforms in terms of social media, I think that they gonna be at like I feel like Upscrolled and Substack right now is taking in a lot of they people that they running away. And for it's all said and done, it'll be Meta will be gone. It'll be Substack, YouTube, and Upscroll or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we
I know
we
Spill too. Shout out to the Black owned app, Spill app, and the fan base. You know what I'm saying? I know everybody like them, don't like them, but definitely want to shout those Black owned companies out.
yeah, and I think we again, considering you've been engaged in this since 2019, short form is like to me, it's past its apex too. And I think a lot of folks, every 5, 7, 10 years, different trends emerge. Like there at one point in time, man, Twitter was the thing, right? And I think a lot of what happened was, of course, Elon Musk, but it's still like it can't last that way
Yeah,
forever.
definitely, yeah.
And I think the benefit of this, of everybody that's listening, this is why it's so important for us to be on this app. First off, I gotta shout out the point that one of my brothers, Marcus Cage, he reminds me, like, we don't own these spaces. We are renting time here, right? But I will say that Substack gives us the best opportunity to
To
work
own the
towards
following, man.
to work towards getting the mortgage, right? We ain't gonna get the mortgage here, but at the end of the day, if for some reason, because this app, from what I'm saying, is the founder or the CEO, whoever, they put out a message supporting free speech the way that we espouse it, right? But if something ever happened, I at least can email you and let you know. The 440,000 people that were following and supporting me through all the suppression and all the tactics on IG, I don't have access because you got to have an email to sign up for those websites. But when you follow me, all I get is your name. That's the scam right there. So I think what I want to remind myself and remind us collectively too is we were educators before we even touched these things.
Oh
And
God.
we're gonna be educators if anything ever changes. So it is very incumbent upon everybody watching this to ensure that you find ways to support when we come to your city or whatever. If it's open to the public, come in. We got a book, we got a course online, engage in that. Because at the end of the day, bro, like if they shut it all down, I'm going back to the block. And I ain't talking about like that.
Definitely, but then I'm definitely
I'm
going back
about
to the
to
same thing. Going back to the
be on the corner
classroom.
teaching, bro. I'm gonna be on the corner teaching and preaching.
Definitely, like definitely going back to the classroom one way or another. So it's all it is. You know what I'm saying? That's how I live this too, man. Thinking about this, man. I'll say this. When you type in consciously name on any social media platforms, there will be a bunch of things that pop up. What I would say is that I'm an acquired taste. I ain't for everybody. I'm an acquired taste. I'm not for everybody, and I don't want to be for everybody. And there's going to be a lot of positions that I take that are unpopular to people. As a result of those unpopular positions, a lot of those things you're going to see from the search of consciously going to pop up. Whether it's about a brick lady, whether it's about being critical of Kamala Harris, whether it's about the made-up identity for my wife, whether it's about what you think I said about FBA, whether it's about these are all the things. I said trans women and women, like all these things are one of the ways that people feel like the flavor I'm putting out is nasty and deserves to be spit out.
Mm,
Which is why I led with opening this and saying I'm an acquired taste, and that this taste that I have, I was doing it before I had a following. Before I had a following, I already had took the Black plight politically, socially, economically seriously. I already had my degree in African American studies. I already was doing work in the community. I already was making different sacrifices. So the idea that I have to do this because I have a following, to me, is like it is preposterous and it's being said in bad faith. It's just how Ernest put it. We was educating before we had followings. Before I had a following, I was already doing research and curriculum design and curriculum development and coming up with learning objectives. I was already coming up with tests and homework assignments and grading already. I was already being able to command a seminar, a classroom, you feel me, an entire course. I was already doing that. All I figured out how to do is how to cross supply my portable skills from the classroom and policy debate into virtual reality on my phone. But the point is, the reason I'm able to do what I do on my phone is because I was already honing in these skills and this knowledge before I got on my phone. And
Mm,
sometimes people forget that.
mm. You know what? What I think is important to say too is I use you as an example oftentimes when I'm speaking to kids about this. Your follower, my follower, several other people, especially on your level, man. It's proof that millions of people want to engage with educational content. And I say that because one of the reasons I didn't want to get on the app initially is because all I saw was dancing and stuff like that. It wasn't my thing, right? So I'm thinking that like that app is just for the trendy things. And that's the same thing that's fed to us. The pathway to living a sustainable life, of being wealthy, this or that, for a black man is, the athletics and entertainment and like, no. It's intellectualism.
Swear to God.
Millions of people are viewing, even beyond the shadow band. Millions of people are engaged in this, which to me means that like the fact that educators are devalued on this level. These things to me are proof. Because when I was in a class, and I remember like kids of all backgrounds liking my course, and people nominated me for awards and stuff, and I always felt good at the end of the day. Like I felt like I was living my mission, and I would get my check, and it was cool, right? It was never like
Like, man,
worse,
but you'll
but
be
it never
like,
one of the most,
man.
right? But I was like, bro, I think I deserve, like, for me, because if you killing and you an all-star in the NBA, bro, you gonna get that, and you know what I'm saying, a little extra sign-on bonus, but that could never happen there. But I think what this world showed me was, oh wait, it ain't the 50, 60, 70,000 that we getting paid, the pennies they want to give us. It's people really value this knowledge that we given. And I think it's important for kids to see that as an example. You, me, like we have a following more than some folks who engage just in comedy all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean then? That means that if we put out something educational documentary, educational film, then we have a following of people that want to engage in that more than the alternative. And that's not something that most people are taught to believe, that there is no value in this, that there's no substance to it. The root of this is Black folks, particularly, have always valued education. It's
God.
the bro, it's regardless of what you said, what happened to your parents and everything, you knew the expectation for you. Because for whatever happened to them within this system, they understood that they weren't those circumstances and you weren't those circumstances, and we aren't. First thing Black folks was doing after they gained freedom, finding family, trying to get educated. Even when they was enslaved, sneaking to read a book and figure out how to read.
No.
Mm,
It's a reason why the consequences for trying to educate yourself became death.
mm,
Because so many people were trying to educate themselves and they tried to threaten you with your life to try to decentivize or discourage you from learning how to read.
mm. Bro, when you say,
Education is elevation, damn it.
I was just about to say it. You already know. Like straight, bro. I don't want to like get into all the mentioning the names and stuff, but this is something else I feel real passionate about. It's the fact that we have so many, in addition to like the rappers who aren't speaking up, we have athletes who aren't, like, to me, intelligently engaging in the stuff that's going on now. And when you say education is elevation, what I'm gathering from that too right now is we have to understand we will continue collectively as all people to be at the predicament we are in unless all people have access to this and know how to use this knowledge constructively. We cannot elevate collectively as people without an awareness, without an astute awareness and understanding of how we can use this proactively. But here's what I want to do though, because we've been
It
chopping it.
could be. Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
10 minutes, bro. So uh, you and I both know this is a crazy month for us, man, because it's Black History Month, right? Because we Black and we talk about Black stuff, right? So everybody be hitting us up and things like that. So I want to first off, again, thank you for the time, and also too, I want people to remember, if you are able to, you know how we say like sacrifice a cup of coffee a week or whatever like that. If you are able to, please consider becoming a paid subscriber for both of us. Would pick one, whatever you need to do, because that goes a long way. Because when we are able to do stuff like this independently and devote our time to it, then we don't have to worry about maybe taking some of the other gigs we ain't really want to engage in, or some of the other you know what I'm saying? Like,
Definitely.
but tell us, how we can engage in your work outside of social media moving forward, whether it be in-person gigs, whether it be curriculum, or how people can even book you if they want to.
Yeah, man. Theconsciously.com, or you can contact me on Substack or any platform. I do a lot of curriculum development, curriculum design. I have a master's degree in human relations and a master's degree in adult and higher education. Before I was doing social media, I was an educational professional as well as a human relations expert. So if you're looking for facilitations, workshops, keynote speaking panels, you can get that. I'm working my book agent right now. I have 5 children's books that I've done that I'm looking to get published here within the next year. So be on the lookout for that. And then the last thing is more outside of me is thinking about the climate that we in terms of politics, in terms of politicians. A lot of us are very vigilant and are very conscious about who are paying our politicians, specifically when it comes to PAC money. A lot of us that's critical of politicians to get PAC money, we got to figure out a way to put our money where our mouth is and make sure that we don't chastise a politician for taking PAC money. We got to figure out a way to help them, you know what I'm saying, fund their campaign. I know here in Texas, if I'm going to criticize somebody for taking PAC money, got to figure out a way how to substitute getting their money in, because the people they're going against, they taking all the PAC money. And in Texas, sadly, those little ads that's gonna play on Fox News or gonna play on local channel, they're gonna see that. Texas gonna see that. So if they being outspent on just TV ads, it's gonna impact how Donald Trump gonna get power nationally based off of how people spending here in the Texas on the state level in Texas. So this is my point in this little spiel. I need it definitely. I'm looking to make sure I can pay some bills and make sure the kids can be good and make sure I can keep on continuing to do this full time. But more importantly, the policymakers that's dictating policy, that's running for campaign and running for office. If you talk shit and feel like they shouldn't take no PAC money, you have to have an alternative.
Yeah.
There's no alternative. That means the status quo is going to win. That's a debate 101.
No, real talk. Because you think about our movement, like those movements were funded by folks like in the community, everybody giving a little bit. And also, too, we had a lot of high profile entertainers engaging in this. Look, truthfully, y'all, like, look, if we can't get the subscribers, we're gonna have to start promoting sports betting, and we don't want to do that.
Sports betting and Viagra pills. That's what they
You
got
know
for
what
black
I'm
men
saying?
doing. You know what I'm saying? That's what they got for black men in social media. You feel me? You
We're gonna be in,
subscribe now. Type
right.
in Shannon right now, and I'll give you $100. You know what I'm saying?
Talk
Right?
about
Hey, type in Crim, and we will make sure that your Johnson gets real crimmed up next time you.
That's what it be like, man. It's crazy. We be in the middle of talking about political theory, Afro pessimism, and anti-black racism, and all this type of
That's
stuff.
right, guys.
We
For 20% off, type in Crim, and we'll give you 30. We'll give you 2 weeks supply of Viagra pills.
That's what it be like, man. It's crazy, bro. So I want to. So for everybody that's tuning in on your side, y'all can tap in with me at ernestcrim.com. I got a book, How Black History Can Save Your Life. Same, bro. Like in terms of, I'm working with some school districts now too, and I would best honestly say what I do with how I talk to no, it was a group of kids yesterday that asked me what I was doing since I'm not in the class anymore. And I kind of I kind of said playfully, like, well, I teach white educators how to treat our kids better. And it's sad, but that's what happens a lot of time when I come into a school district. It's like the blind spots, the biases. I am getting paid from districts to help teach these educators how to build those cultural bridges. It's common sense to us, but a lot of folks aren't curious, don't have that experience, and our kids are being harmed because of that. So with that, you know what I'm saying, make sure y'all, again, with all the offline work too, check in with us, see when we come into your cities. We appreciate all of y'all support, all jokes aside. Y'all being here means the world for real, because in this climate, it ain't just the Washington Post people being laid off, y'all. It ain't just the other report, you know what I'm saying? Like they're dealing with this.
Your favorite TikToker, Instagrammer is being laid off.
Yeah, bruh, like straight up. And if
Your
I
favorite YouTuber is Your favorite YouTuber is one community guideline away from being out the way.
Bro, it's crazy when you think about that, but, you know, we're gonna say less. We're gonna have to continue this again with a part 2. So
For sure. Got to run this back for sure, for sure.
yeah, for sure, man. So appreciate y'all. We'll holler at y'all later. Peace.